Jake Morrison sat in the cold metal chair and watched the numbers change on the giant screen above him. Each number meant one alien species, voting on whether humans should be kicked out of the galaxy forever. The chair was uncomfortable, but he had been sitting in it for 3 hours, now waiting for this moment. The voting hall was huge, bigger than any building Jake had ever seen on Earth. Thousands of aliens sat in curved rows that went up so high he could barely see the top. Each species had their own section with their own strange chairs and breathing equipment. Some aliens looked like giant insects, others like walking trees, and some were just clouds of glowing gas floating in glass containers. Jake was the human ambassador, which meant he spoke for all of Earth. He had done this job for 10 years, trying to make friends with alien species and keep peace in the galaxy. Today, all that work was about to end. The numbers kept climbing. 500 votes to kick humans out, 600 votes, 700 votes. Only 23 species had chosen not to vote at all. Not a single alien species had voted to let humans stay. Next to Jake sat Dr. Rachel Stone, his assistant. She was a smart woman who had helped him understand alien languages and customs. Her hands were shaking as she watched the screen. "This is really happening," she whispered. "They're really going to throw us out." Jake nodded but said nothing. He had known this day would come. Humans had been part of the galactic community for only 50 years, and they had never really fit. And other species thought humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too willing to fight when they should talk. The final number appeared on the screen. 847 votes to exile Earth, 0 votes against, 23 abstentions. A tall alien made of living crystal walked to the center of the hall. This was Council Prime Zethkar, the leader of all the alien species. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the huge room like breaking glass. "Species called humans are no longer welcome in galactic space," he announced. "You have 7 days to remove all humans from every planet, space station, and ship outside your home system. After that, any human found in our territory will be arrested." Jake felt his heart beating fast, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat, and soldiers learn not to show fear. Around the hall, thousands of alien eyes watched him, waiting to see how he would react. He thought about the charges they had brought against humanity. The main one was about Captain Lisa Parker and what happened at the Kepler mining station 6 months ago. A group of alien traders had been attacked by space pirates, and their ship was sinking into a gas giant planet. Captain Parker had been ordered to save the aliens first and leave her human crew behind if necessary. Instead, she had ignored the order and found a way to save everyone. All the humans lived, and all the aliens lived too. But the alien commander had been angry that a human had disobeyed his direct order. To the aliens, following orders was more important than saving lives. There were other charges too. Humans have been accused of being too aggressive in business deals. They had been accused of asking too many questions about alien technology. They had been accused of being too friendly with alien species that the Council didn't like. But Jake knew the real reason. Humans were different. They didn't think like other species. When aliens saw a problem, they formed committees and held meetings, and voted on solutions. When humans saw a problem, they fixed it. Right away, even if it meant breaking rules. The aliens wanted a galaxy where everyone followed orders and stayed in their assigned place. Humans wanted a galaxy where everyone was free to make their own choices. These two ideas could not exist together. Council Prime Zethgar was still talking, explaining the details of the exile. Humans would be allowed to take their personal belongings and any technology they had invented themselves. They could not take any alien technology or any materials that belonged to other species. They would be escorted out of galactic space by alien warships to make sure they didn't try to hide anywhere. Jake had prepared a speech for this moment. He had planned to stand up and ask the council to reconsider. He planned to remind them of all the good things humans had done, all the times they had helped other species, all the problems they had solved. But looking at the alien faces around him, he realized it would be pointless. They had already made up their minds. Nothing he could say would change their decision. Instead, he stood up slowly and looked around the hall one more time. Some aliens looked happy that the humans were leaving, others looked sad or worried, few looked angry as if they thought the punishment was too harsh. "I understand," Jake said simply. His voice was quiet, but the hall's sound system made sure everyone could hear him. "We will be gone in 7 days." He turned and walked toward the exit, with Rachel following close behind. As they walked, Jake could hear the aliens talking excitedly in their strange languages. Some were celebrating. Others were making plans for how to divide up the territories the humans would leave behind. Jake and Rachel walked through the long corridors of the council building without speaking. Finally, when they reached their ship, Rachel broke the silence. "What do we do now?" she asked. Jake looked at her with a small smile. "Now we go home and tell everyone to pack up. But Rachel, I need you to understand something. This isn't the end of humanity in space. This is just the beginning of something new." Rachel looked confused. "What do you mean?" "The government has been preparing for this possibility for years. We have plans, Rachel. We've been building things in secret, exploring places the aliens have never seen, developing technology they don't know about. The council thinks they're punishing us, but they're actually setting us free." As their ship lifted off from the council world, Jake looked out the window at the alien city below. It was beautiful in its own way, with twisted spires and floating platforms that defied human understanding of physics. But it was also cold and sterile, a place where rules mattered more than people. "Send a message to Earth," Jake told the ship's communication officer. "Tell them the vote is final. Tell them it's time to activate the Exodus Protocol." The Exodus Protocol was humanity's secret plan for exactly this situation. Though, while human diplomats have been smiling and shaking hands with aliens, human engineers have been building self-sufficient ships that could travel to unexplored parts of the galaxy. Human scientists have been developing new technologies that didn't depend on alien knowledge. Human explorers have been mapping star systems far beyond the reach of the council. They aliens thought they were sending humanity back to their single planet to live in isolation. They had no idea that humans had already found dozens of worlds suitable for colonization, far beyond the borders of known space. Jake opened a secure communication channel to Admiral Ben Clark, the commander of the Earth Defense Force. Ben, it's done. They voted us out. I figured they would, the Admiral replied. Are you ready for the next phase? More than ready. How long until all our people are clear of Council space? 6 months, maybe less. We've been quietly moving non-essential personnel for weeks. The aliens won't notice anything unusual until it's too late. Jake smiled for the first time in hours. Then let's show them what happens when you give humanity a reason to prove itself. The ship jumped to hyperspace, beginning the long journey back to Earth. Behind them, aliens were already celebrating what they thought was their victory over the troublesome human species. They had no idea that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. Admiral Ben Clark stood on the bridge of the Endeavour and watched the last transport ship disappear into the darkness of space. The ship was carrying the final group of humans from New Terra, the first planet that humans had successfully colonized outside their home system. In just 3 days, they had moved over 2 million people and all their important equipment to safety. That's the last one, sir, reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster from her station. She was young but skilled, one of the best communication officers in the Earth Defense Force. It's all personnel from New Terra are now heading to the rendezvous point. Ben nodded and felt a mix of sadness and relief. New Terra had been humanity's first real home among the stars. They had built cities there, started families, and made it into a place where humans could truly live and grow. Now, they were abandoning it all because the aliens had decided humans didn't belong in their galaxy. But Ben knew something the aliens didn't. This evacuation wasn't a retreat, it was the beginning of the largest military operation in human history. What about the colonies? Ben asked. Amy checked her screens. Colony ships from Proxima Centauri left yesterday. The Kepler 442b evacuation finished this morning. TRAPPIST system crews are loading the last of the mining equipment now. Everyone should be at the rendezvous point within 2 weeks. Ben walked to the large window that looked out into space. Somewhere out there, dozens of human colonies were shutting down and packing up. To anyone watching, it would look like humanity was simply giving up and going home. The aliens would probably think they'd won a complete victory. They had no idea what was really happening. The Exodus protocol had been developed 15 years ago by the Earth Defense Force. It was a secret plan for exactly this situation. While human diplomats had been working to make friends with alien species, human military leaders had been preparing for the day when those friendships would fail. The plan was simple but massive. If humanity was ever kicked out of the known galaxy, they would not return to Earth to live in isolation. Instead, they would move to unexplored regions of space and build a new civilization. Their civilization that would be stronger, more advanced, and completely independent of alien control. Captain Steve Baker appeared on the communication screen. He was commanding the science vessel Discovery, one of the fastest ships in the human fleet. Admiral, we finished scanning the target systems. I have good news. Let's hear it, Ben said. We've confirmed 12 star systems beyond the galactic rim that have planets suitable for human life, no alien presence detected in any of them. The closest alien outpost is over 50 light years away. Ben smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. What about the planets themselves? 3 of them are almost perfect copies of Earth, good atmosphere, plenty of water, reasonable gravity. The other 9 will need some work, but they're all habitable with our current technology. This was the first part of the Exodus protocol. For years, human exploration ships have been secretly mapping regions of space that the aliens had never bothered to visit. They had found dozens of star systems with good planets far beyond the reach of any alien government. The aliens controlled only a small part of the galaxy, mostly the area around the galactic center, where travel was easy and resources were plentiful. But the galaxy was huge, and most of it was completely empty of intelligent life. There was plenty of room for humanity to build a new home. What about the other preparations, Ben asked. Dr. Helen Ross appeared on another screen. She was the head of the Earth Defense Force Research Division, a brilliant scientist who had been working on secret projects for over a decade. All research data has been secured and copied to the ARC ships. We managed to save everything important. This was crucial. When the aliens kicked humanity out, they had demanded that humans leave behind any technology they had learned from alien sources. But they couldn't take away the knowledge that human scientists had developed on their own. And humans had developed quite a lot. Dr. Ross and her team had been working on new technologies that the aliens didn't even know were possible. Computers, new types of engines, improved weapon systems, and most importantly, a way to travel faster than light without using the alien hyperspace network. The quantum communication system is ready too, Dr. Ross continued. Once we're established in the new systems, we'll be able to communicate instantly across any distance. The aliens have nothing like it. Ben felt a surge of excitement. Quantum communication system would allow human colonies to stay in contact no matter how far apart they were. It would let them coordinate their actions and share information in real time. Most importantly, it would be completely invisible to alien detection systems. Any problems with the evacuation, Ben asked. Captain Baker shook his head. Everything is going according to plan. The civilians don't know the full details, but they understand that we're not just running away. Moral is actually pretty good. Had been one of Ben's biggest concerns. Moving millions of people from their homes was never easy, especially when they didn't know exactly where they were going. But the human colonists had trusted their government and their military. They had packed up their lives and followed orders without complaint. The alien observers haven't noticed anything unusual, Amy reported. As far as they know, we're just following their exile order and going home. Ben nodded. This was essential to the plan's success. The aliens had sent ships to watch the human evacuation and make sure no one tried to hide or resist. But they were only watching to make sure humans left their territory. They weren't paying attention to where the humans were actually going. Alien observers saw human ships leaving colonies and heading toward Earth. What they didn't see was that most of those ships never reached Earth. Instead, course once they were out of alien sensor range and headed for the secret rendezvous point. How long until we're completely clear of alien space? Ben asked. 6 months, Amy replied. Maybe less if everything goes smoothly. Ben walked back to the command chair and sat down. 6 months seemed like a long time, but he knew it would pass quickly. There was still so much work to do. The hardest part would be keeping the secret. Thousands of humans were involved in the evacuation, and any one of them could accidentally reveal the truth to an alien observer. But the Earth's Defense Force had prepared for this too. Only the senior officers knew the full plan. Everyone else knew just enough to do their job. Sir, Amy said, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's from the President. Ben straightened in his chair. Put it through. President Frank Nixon appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was strong and confident. Admiral Clark, I've just received the final report from our intelligence division. Aliens are already making plans to divide up our former territories. That's what we expected, Ben replied. I know, but there's something else. Our agents have discovered that the aliens have been lying to us for years. They've been suppressing other species, preventing them from developing space travel, and keeping them as slave populations. Ben felt a cold anger building in his chest. Species. At least 40 that we know of. The aliens have been bombing civilizations back to the Stone Age. Whenever they get too advanced, they've been using biological weapons to control populations. They've been strip mining planets and relocating the native species to make room for their own colonies. This changed everything. Ben had always known that the aliens were not as peaceful as they pretended to be, but this level of cruelty and oppression was worse than he had imagined. Mr. President, Ben said, I think we need to expand our plans. I was hoping you would say that. The Exodus Protocol is no longer just about saving humanity, it's about saving everyone the aliens have been oppressing. Ben stood up and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, alien species were suffering under the boot of the Galactic Council. They were being held back, controlled, and murdered by the same aliens who had just voted to exile humanity for being too aggressive. We'll need more ships, Ben said. More weapons, more people. We'll have everything you need, the President promised. The entire Earth Defense Force is being mobilized. We're not just evacuating anymore. Admiral, preparing for war. Ben smiled grimly. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem by voting them out of the galaxy. They had no idea that they had just created their worst nightmare. Humanity was about to disappear from known space, and when they returned, they would be stronger than ever before. Commander Alex Turner stood at the observation deck of New Haven Station and watched the busy activity in the asteroid belt around him. Huge mining machines were pulling metals and rare materials from dead rocks, while construction crews built new ships in the floating shipyards. It had been 20 years since humanity left the known galaxy, and this place had become their new Capital. Alex was older now, with gray hair and lines around his eyes, but he felt more alive than he had in decades. The humans had not just survived their exile, they had built something amazing. The latest reports from our exploration teams are very good, said Dr. Maria Santos, walking up beside him. She was the station's chief science officer and one of the smartest people Alex had ever met. Captain John Hayes has confirmed 3 more planets that humans can live on. That gives us a total of 47 colony worlds now. Alex smiled and nodded. When they had first arrived in this empty region of space, they had only 12 planets to choose from. Now, after 20 years of exploration, they had found dozens more. Each planet was becoming home to millions of humans who were building new cities, starting families, and creating a civilization unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. What about the population numbers? Alex asked. We're up to 800 million people spread across all the colonies, Maria replied. The birth rate is higher than it ever was when we lived in alien space. People seem happier out here. Alex understood why. When humans had lived under alien rule, they had always felt like guests who might be asked to leave at any moment. Now they were truly free to build the kind of society they wanted. There were no alien laws to follow, no alien customs to respect, and no alien committees to ask permission from. The freedom had led to incredible innovation. Without access to alien technology, human scientists had been forced to develop everything from scratch. But instead of holding them back, this had pushed them to create things that were better than anything the aliens had ever made. Dr. Paul Gordon had figured out how to travel faster than light without using the alien hyperspace lanes. His new engines could move ships across the galaxy in days instead of months. Dr. Nancy Davis had built computer systems that could think and learn like humans, making them far more advanced than the simple alien machines. And Colonel Peter Williams had developed weapons that could punch through any alien defense. Any news from our intelligence teams? Alex asked. Maria's expression became more serious. Captain Linda Moore sent her latest report from the border regions. The aliens still have no idea we exist. They actually reduced their military spending 5 years ago because they think the galaxy is more peaceful without us. Alex felt a cold anger in his chest. The aliens thought they had made the galaxy safer by kicking humans out. They had no idea what they had really done. Over the past 20 years, human intelligence agents had been secretly watching the alien territories. What they had discovered was worse than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Council was not the peaceful organization it pretended to be. It was a system built on oppression and control. The aliens had been lying about everything. They claimed to believe in peace and cooperation, but they had been systematically destroying any species that might challenge their power. The Vrex had developed nuclear weapons and been bombed back to the Stone Age. Altarians had tried to unite their planet and been attacked with biological weapons that killed millions. The Kepler natives had been quietly moved off their home world so aliens could strip mine it for resources. Dozens of intelligent species had been kept as slaves or pets. Hundreds of worlds had been stripped of their resources and abandoned. Aliens had built their peaceful civilization on the graves of everyone who had tried to resist them. How many species are we talking about? Alex asked. At least 60 that we know of, Maria replied. Some of them are still fighting. Others have been beaten down so badly they've given up hope. A few have been completely wiped out. Alex walked to the window and looked out at the human ships moving through space. Each ship represented thousands of people who had been given a second chance at life. But somewhere in the galaxy, millions of other beings were still suffering under alien rule. What about our military readiness? Alex asked. Colonel Williams says we're ready for anything the aliens can throw at us. Maria replied. We have over 3,000 warships now, all equipped with the new technology. Each one is more powerful than anything in the alien fleet. Alex nodded. The human military had grown far beyond what anyone had thought possible. When they had first arrived in exile, they had maybe 50 ships that could fight. Now they had a fleet that could take on the entire Galactic Council and win. But the real advantage was not in numbers or technology. It was in the fact that the aliens had no idea humans still existed. As far as the Council knew, humanity had returned to Earth and given up on space travel. They had no idea that millions of humans were living and working just outside their borders. Sir, said Lieutenant Mike Johnson, approaching from the communication station. We're receiving a priority message from the Border Patrol. Captain Lisa Parker is requesting immediate assistance. Alex felt his heart jump. Lisa Parker was the same captain who had caused the incident that led to humanity's exile. She had refused to follow alien orders and had saved both her human crew and the alien traders. Now she was commanding one of the deep reconnaissance ships that watched the border between human and alien space. Put her through, Alex ordered. Captain Parker appeared on the communication screen. She looked tired and angry. Commander Turner, we have a situation. The aliens are moving against the Kepler system again. They're bringing in a full battle fleet. Alex felt his blood run cold. The Kepler system was where the native species lived, the ones who had been moved off their original planet. Human intelligence had been monitoring them for years, and they had been slowly rebuilding their civilization on their new world. How long until the alien fleet arrives? Alex asked. 2 days, maybe less, Parker replied. Sir, these people have been through hell already. The aliens relocated them 20 years ago, and they've been struggling to survive ever since. If the alien fleet attacks, it will be a massacre. Alex looked at Maria, who nodded grimly. They both knew what this meant. The aliens were not content with just controlling the Kepler natives. They wanted to wipe them out completely. What are our options? Alex asked. We could evacuate them, Parker suggested. Get them out before the aliens arrive. That would reveal our presence, Maria pointed out. The aliens would know we're still active in this region. Alex considered the options. For 20 years, humanity had stayed hidden, building their strength and preparing for the day when they would be ready to challenge the alien system. But that day was still years away. They were not ready for a full-scale war yet. But he looked at the faces of his crew and saw the same determination he felt. These people had been driven from their homes by alien arrogance. They had spent 20 years building something better, and now they were being asked to watch, while innocent beings were slaughtered by the same aliens who had exiled them. Alex said finally, "We're not evacuating them, we're saving them." Maria looked surprised. "Sir, that could start a war. Maybe it's time for a war," Alex replied. "The aliens have been getting away with this for too long. They kicked us out because they said we were too aggressive. Maybe it's time to show them what human aggression really looks like." He turned to Lieutenant Johnson. "Send a message to Admiral Clark. Tell him we're activating the early phases of Operation Homecoming. Get me a direct line to Captain Parker, sir." Parker said from the screen, "Captain, you're not evacuating those people. You're going to help them fight. And you're going to have backup." Parker smiled for the first time in the conversation. "What kind of backup?" "It's the kind that's going to remind the aliens why they were afraid of us in the first place." Alex turned to address the entire command center. "Ladies and gentlemen, our 20 years of exile are over. It's time to go home." The crew erupted in cheers. After 2 decades of hiding and building, humanity was finally ready to return to the U galaxy. And when they did, the aliens would discover that the species they had exiled had become something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The first sign that something was wrong came when the monitoring station at the edge of alien space simply stopped working. The automated systems that had been sending regular reports for 20 years suddenly went quiet. No alarms, no distress signals, just silence. Council Prime Zethgar, ancient and more crystalline than ever, stood in the command center of the Galactic Defense Force and stared at the dark screen where the station's signal should have been. His advisors moved around him nervously, unsure what to make of the situation. "Technical failure," suggested General Vorthak of the Zentari Empire. He was a large bear-like creature with thick fur and sharp claws. "These old stations break down all the time." "Perhaps," Zethgar replied, his voice crackling like breaking ice. "But this station was upgraded only 5 years ago. Sent a repair ship to investigate." The repair ship arrived at the monitoring station 3 days later. What they found made no sense. Station was completely intact, floating in space exactly where it should be. All the equipment looked perfect, but every single system had been shut down in a precise, careful way that left no trace of who had done it. "Impossible," muttered the repair team leader as he walked through the empty corridors. The security system showed no signs of forced entry. The computer logs have been wiped clean. Whoever did this had access codes that only council officials should have. When the repair team tried to restart the systems, they discovered that every piece of important equipment had been carefully removed. The sensor arrays, the communication devices, the data cores, all gone. But nothing had been damaged or destroyed. It was as if someone had simply taken what they needed and left everything else untouched. General Vorthak received the report with growing concern. "Sir, this doesn't look like a random attack. This looks like professional intelligence gathering." 3 more monitoring stations went dark over the next week. Each time the pattern was the same. No violence, no destruction, just precise removal of key equipment and complete erasure of all records. The security footage showed figures in advanced environmental suits working with impossible efficiency, but their faces were hidden and their technology was unlike anything in the galactic databases. We need to increase border patrols, Vorthak suggested. If someone is targeting our monitoring network, they might be planning a larger attack, Zethar agreed, and within days, galactic defense warships were spread across the border regions. But the attackers seemed to know exactly where the patrols would be. They struck only at undefended stations, always staying one step ahead of the alien forces. The mystery deepened when the analysis team studied the technology used in the attacks. The environmental suits were made from materials that didn't exist in any galactic database. The tools used to disable the systems were based on principles that alien scientists didn't understand. And most disturbing of all, the attackers seemed to know exactly how alien technology worked, as if they had been studying it for years. Could this be the work of one of the suppressed species? Asked Admiral Keth Farr of the Deltoran fleet. She was a tall, thin alien with blue skin and large black eyes. Perhaps one of them has developed new technology in secret, possible. General Vorthak replied. We monitor all the suppressed worlds constantly. None of them have the capability for this kind of operation. Deep down, both officers were beginning to suspect something that seemed impossible. There was only one species that had ever shown this level of technical innovation and military precision. But that species had been exiled 20 years ago and was supposedly confined to their home system. The answer came a week later when a single ship appeared directly above Zentari Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. The ship materialized without warning, bypassing every defense system and sensor network as if they didn't exist. It hung in space like a black dagger, radiating energy signatures that made alien instruments scream warnings. Admiral Kate Morgan stood on the bridge of the Retribution, the first human warship to enter alien space in 20 years. She was a veteran of the exile, one of the officers who had helped plan and execute humanity's disappearance from the known galaxy. Now she was back, and she was not alone. The bridge crew worked quietly around her, monitoring their instruments with calm professionalism. These were all volunteers, men and women, who had grown up in exile and chosen to return to face the aliens who had driven their parents from their homes. Admiral, reported Commander Jerry Walsh from the sensor station, were detecting massive military movement throughout the system. Every alien ship in the area is moving to intercept us. Kate nodded calmly. How many ships? Over 500, ma'am. Looks like they're calling in reinforcements from neighboring systems. 2. Kate smiled. The aliens were reacting exactly as the human intelligence reports had predicted. They saw one unknown ship and immediately assumed it was the beginning of an invasion. They had no idea that this ship was not here to attack, but to deliver a message. Open a communication channel to the council chambers, Kate ordered. Full spectrum broadcast. I want every alien in the galaxy to hear this. The transmission cut through every security protocol the aliens had ever developed. It appeared simultaneously on every screen, every communication device, and every information network in alien space. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens suddenly found themselves looking at the face of a human they thought they would never see again. Kate looked into the camera and spoke with the calm authority of someone who held all the cards. I am Admiral Kate Morgan of the Earth Space Command. 20 years ago, you voted to cast humanity out of the galactic community. You celebrated our departure and divided our territories among yourselves. You thought you had seen the last of us. On Centaura Prime, Council Prime Zethgar watched the transmission with growing horror. Behind him, his advisors whispered frantically as they tried to understand how this was possible. Humans were supposed to be confined to their home system, unable to travel beyond their own star. You were wrong, Kate continued. Humanity has spent these 20 years learning, growing, and preparing. We have established ourselves in regions of space you never knew existed. We have developed technologies you cannot comprehend. We have discovered the truth about your so-called peaceful galactic order. The transmission shifted to show footage that made alien leaders across the galaxy gasp in shock. Video evidence of the suppression campaigns, the forced relocations, the biological weapons attacks, and the systematic destruction of developing civilizations. Information that had been classified at the highest levels of the Council now broadcast for everyone to see. The Vrax bombardment was your doing, Kate said as images of burning cities filled the screen. The Alterian plague was your creation. The Kepler relocation was your crime. For thousands of years you have built your civilization on the suffering of others. General Vorthak turned to his staff. Officers, how many human ships are we detecting? Sir, came the nervous reply. Our sensors are showing it's impossible, sir. How many? Vorthak demanded. Over 3,000 ships, General. They're appearing in every major system simultaneously. Our entire fleet is outnumbered. Vorthak felt his blood turn to ice. 3,000 ships meant that humanity had not just survived their exile. They had built a military force larger than anything the Council had ever assembled. Kate's voice continued from the speakers. The Council will be dissolved. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your oppressive laws will be repealed. The species you have suppressed will be given the freedom to determine their own destinies. On the bridge of the Retribution, Commander Walsh reported the alien fleet positions. Admiral, they're trying to surround us. Should we take defensive action? Kate shook her head. Not yet. Let them get close enough to see what we're really capable of. She turned back to the camera for her final words. This is your only warning. You have 24 hours to begin dismantling your military forces and releasing your subject species. If you choose to fight, you will discover that the species you exiled for being too aggressive has had 20 years to perfect the art of war. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. For 20 years the aliens had lived in a galaxy they thought was safe and peaceful. Now they were face to face with the consequences of their actions. Those consequences wore human faces. The war was about to begin. The war lasted exactly 72 hours. The Galactic Council's response had been swift and predictable. Within 6 hours of Admiral Kate Morgan's ultimatum, Over 3,000 alien warships had gathered. In the Zentara system, every major species in the galaxy had sent their best ships and most experienced crews. They believed they were facing a desperate group of human refugees with stolen technology and impossible dreams. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Dan Cooper stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched his tactical display as the alien fleet moved into attack formation. The aliens had arranged their ships in the classic council battle pattern with heavy cruisers in the center and fast attack ships on the flanks. It was a formation that had won 1,000 battles against suppressed species who fought with inferior weapons and desperate courage. But humanity was not a suppressed species anymore. Enemy fleet is moving to engagement range, reported Lieutenant Susan Baker from the tactical station. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Dan smiled grimly. The aliens still thought this was a negotiation. They believed that a show of overwhelming force would make the humans back down and accept whatever terms the council offered. They had no idea that humanity had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. All ships, Dan announced over the Fleet Communication Network, execute Operation Homecoming. Show them what humans have learned across the star system. 3,000 human warships suddenly revealed capabilities that no alien scientist had ever imagined. Ships that had appeared to be simple cruisers unfolded into massive battleships. Weapons that looked like standard plasma cannons unleashed energy beams that cut through alien shields like paper. And most shocking of all, the human ships began moving at speeds that should have been impossible. Admiral Kate Morgan watched from the bridge of the Retribution as the alien fleet tried to respond to the human attack. Their ships were turning and firing, but their movement seemed slow and clumsy compared to the human vessels dancing around them. Admiral reported Commander Jerry Walsh. Alien fleet strength is down to 60%. They're trying to retreat from the outer sectors. Kate nodded. The battle was going exactly as the computer simulations had predicted. The aliens had superior numbers, but they were fighting with technology that was decades behind human capabilities. Every human ship was equipped with shields that could absorb alien weapons, fire almost indefinitely. Their weapons could pierce any alien defense, and their engines allowed them to appear anywhere on the battlefield within seconds. But the real advantage was intelligence. 20 years of secret observation had given humanity complete knowledge of every alien ship design, every weapon system, and every tactical doctrine. The aliens were fighting an enemy that knew their every weakness and had specifically designed weapons to exploit them. Sir, reported Lieutenant Baker, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 alien ships. The Deltoran fleet is requesting permission to withdraw. Dan looked at his display and saw that the alien formation was falling apart. Ships that had been confident and aggressive an hour ago were now running for their lives, but Dan had his orders. No surrenders accepted. He announced, disable their weapons and engines, but do not destroy them unless they continue fighting. This was crucial to the human plan. They were not here to commit genocide or to become the new oppressors of the galaxy. They were here to end the system of oppression that the Council had built. That meant capturing alien ships and crews, not destroying them. Within 12 hours, the Battle of Zintara was over. The alien fleet had been completely defeated, with over 2,000 ships captured, and the rest scattered to the winds. Human fleet had suffered only minor damage and no casualties. But the war was far from finished. Admiral Morgan stood in the ruins of the Galactic Council chamber 3 days later, watching as representatives from hundreds of species filed in under human guard to great circular hall that had once been the symbol of alien unity, now served as a courtroom for crimes against the galaxy. The transformation had been swift but careful. Human forces had moved through Council space like a precision instrument, capturing key installations and disabling military bases without causing unnecessary destruction. The goal was not conquest but liberation. The Galactic Council is here dissolved, Morgan announced to the assembled aliens. Many of them looked shocked, others angry, and a few seemed relieved. In its place, we are establishing the Galactic Assembly, with representation for all species, regardless of their technological level or political system. General Vorthak, now a prisoner, stood up in his restraints. You cannot do this. You are one species against hundreds. The galaxy will never accept human rule. Morgan looked at him with something that might have been pity. General, you still don't understand. We're not here to rule the galaxy. We're here to make sure no one else can rule it either. Dr. Sam Phillips, now serving as the Administrator of Galactic Affairs, stepped forward to explain the new system. He was a diplomat who had spent years studying alien cultures and political systems. His job was to build something that would work for everyone. The Galactic Assembly will operate on the principle of consensus, Phillips explained. No species can make decisions for others without their agreement. No world can be occupied without the consent of its people, and no government can claim authority over others without their permission. The transition was not entirely smooth. Some alien species welcomed human liberation, especially those who had been suppressed by the Council for centuries. The Vraks, who had been bombed back to the Stone Age, sent messages of gratitude when human ships arrived to help them rebuild. The Altarians wept with joy when human medical teams cured the plague that had devastated their world. But other species resisted. The Centauri Empire tried to organize a counterattack, only to discover that their military bases had been quietly surrounded by human forces. For weeks, the Vorthon hegemony attempted to retreat to their core worlds and continue the old system, but found that their hyperspace routes had been blocked by human ships. Resistance was futile because humanity had prepared for every possibility. They had studied alien psychology, alien politics, and alien military doctrine. For 20 years, they knew how each species would react and had plans ready for every contingency. Commander Alex Turner, now serving as the Director of Galactic Defense, had established new principles that would govern interstellar relations. No species could be prevented from achieving space travel. No world could be stripped of its resources without compensation. And most importantly, no government could use force to control Others, the point was never to become the new council, Turner explained to a gathering of former alien leaders. The point was to create a system where no council could ever exist again. Within 5 years, the transformation was complete. The Galactic Assembly was functioning independently, with human forces serving only as peacekeepers and advisors. Species that had once cowered under council oppression were now exploring the stars, developing their own technologies and forming their own alliances. Earth itself had been restored to its former position as a hub of galactic civilization, but now it served as a symbol of freedom rather than a center of power. The blue world that had once been exiled had become a beacon of hope for every species in the galaxy. In the deepest archives of the Earth Defense Force, a single file remained, classified above all others. It contained the complete technical specifications for humanity's advanced weapons and defenses, sealed with a simple note from Admiral Morgan: for the day when someone else needs to remind the galaxy what freedom costs. Jake Morrison, now an old man, stood in his garden on Earth and looked up at the stars. Ships from dozens of species moved peacefully through the sky above him, carrying trade goods and passengers to worlds that had once been forbidden to them. The Council had voted to exile Earth because they believed humans were too dangerous to live among civilized species. They had been right about one thing. Humans were dangerous. They were dangerous to tyrants, dangerous to oppressors, and dangerous to anyone who tried to build power on the suffering of others. The galaxy had learned that freedom could not be voted away, could only be taken by force or defended by those willing to fight for it. And humanity had proven they were willing to fight for everyone. The exile was over. The galaxy was free. And the humans who had been cast out for refusing to follow orders had become the guardians of a new age where no one would ever have to follow orders they believed were wrong. The Council had voted to exile Earth, so humanity had left without a word, but they had returned with the most important message in galactic history: freedom belongs to everyone. No one has the right to take it away.